Are we here? Okay. We are actually. I think.
You're now live.
Okay, we're live. Okay. Sorry, slight delay. There was a slight security issue around the other side of the building, and we were trying to make sure that we weren't allowing undesirables access to the offices above. So, apologies about that. Right. Well, good morning and welcome to you all to this licensing subcommittee reconvened committee. I'm going to first check to see who's actually attending virtually. Is it the police? Can you hear us? Okay. You can. Well done. Before I start, obviously, I'm going to ask you to make sure that your telephones are on silent, or if not on silent, on aircraft mode. We would like to obviously confirm that the application we're hearing today is for Reloaded Nightclub, 7 Wharf Street, Newbury, RG145AN. I am Councillor Phil Barnett, and I'm supported this morning by this and on the subcommittee by Councillor Stephanie Stevenson to my right and Councillor Nigel Foote to my left. The legal advisor to my right is Beth Barco, and Ben Ryan to my left will maintain a record of proceedings, and Thomas Radburn to my rear is the Zoom host. Please note this meeting is being webcast and recorded, and parties should therefore be mindful of this and bear in mind the terms of the information shared during this meeting. I will set out the order in which people will be asked to speak. If at the appropriate point anyone wishes to ask a question, please raise their hand. If we need to adjourn the meeting at any time, all parties will be advised of the revised time and date of the meeting if that is the case. If we hear the evacuation alarm this morning, we must leave the building immediately. Please proceed via the safe emergency route, which will be shown to you by the trained officers, and follow instructions given by them. The assembly point is at the rear of the Dolphin Public House. I know many of you are aware where the public house is. Is there anybody that doesn't before I move on? Okay, anyone needing assistance should notify the officers. If a lockdown alarm sounds, we will remain seated and await instruction from officers. We will adjourn the meeting until such a time it's safe to proceed. Does anybody have any questions in relationship to the way the meeting is going to be conducted? Can't see any hands up. I can now ask to confirm that the applicant Sonia Wall and her representative John Payne are attending today in person, which I think they are. Good morning to you both. Can I confirm that Samuel Biggs from the Royal Berkshire Fire and Rescue Services attended in person and intending to speak? Yes. Thank you very much. Can I confirm that Gary Clark from Thames Valley Police is attending via Zoom? And are you going to ask any questions? Last time you didn't, but I don't know about this time. No, you shook your head. I can't hear, but you're just shaking your head. Okay, thanks. Can I confirm that Councillor Martin Coulson, you are attending? I was expecting you to be attending in Zoom, but you're attending in person. So welcome to you, Martin. All other objections submitted in writing will be taken in consideration. Sorry, okay. I've just realised, sorry, that of course on my list, you aren't actually on the list, but you should have been on the list. So welcome to you from the environmental health, correct? Yes, okay. Okay. I've just been asked, are you intending to ask questions? You're not? Okay, thanks very much. I will now go on to explain how the meetings are going to be conducted. The council's licensing officer, Riley Timoney, hello, morning Riley, will introduce the application, after which all the calling parties will take place in the following order: representations by the applicant, representations by the responsible authorities, fire and rescue and the police, representations by the ward member, and summing up by the applicant. Remember, each group has 10 minutes in which to make their case. Each individual responsible authority shall be treated as an individual group for the purposes of speaking and have their own 10 minutes. The representation should include references to the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, prevention of public nuisance, and protection of children from harm. Ben Ryan will be timing the 10 minutes, and he will also notify you 1 minute before the 10 minutes are up. Once all representations have been made and all the questions asked, I will close the meeting. After this, the members will meet privately to make a decision, and a written decision notice will be issued to interested parties setting out the verdict as soon as possible, but in any event within 5 working days of this hearing. Can everybody here, including the Zoom representatives? Yes, okay. I'm going to take this opportunity yet again to remind all parties present that this is a public meeting and the meeting will be webcast on YouTube. It is therefore necessary to remind all attendees again they are in a public forum, and ask participants to bear this in mind in terms of anything was being said during this hearing. Can I again ask the remote participants, they heard that statement? Yes, okay, thank you. I now move on to declarations of interest. Firstly, can I ask members if they have any interest they wish to declare? Okay. The applicant has sent to licensing an updated fire risk assessment and the certificate that was requested by the fire authority at the last hearing on 16th of January. This documentation has been circulated to all parties, and additional copies have been made available on this day of the hearing. Has everybody received a copy of this material, please? Yep, received. Okay, thank you. I'm going to also ask the fire authority, I'm led to believe, have indicated they would like to submit further evidence to this panel. This, of course, is after the deadline provided to submit material. Does the fire authority wish to introduce this new material?
The new material, so yes, we would like to submit that new material. The material is photographs to aid myself in giving my representation.
Okay, well, I'm going to look around the table now and ask the various representatives if they are happy to have this included in these proceedings. Applicant.
Chairman, I haven't seen the photographs, so I can't possibly comment. Now, I anticipate I know what they're going to show, but without seeing them, I can't comment. I'm surprised that they are being adduced at such a late stage, when presumably they were in possession a long time before. So I'd need to see those first before I can make any agreement.
Okay, licensing.
Sorry, so do.
Okay, all right. Members.
Well, I haven't seen the photographs.
Okay. Did you wish to see these, please?
Well,
Did I think you said you but you were a bit neutral, but I was trying to draw you out whether you wanted to actually see them.
I would like to see them if there is any wish to supply them, because of course, Chairman, you'll be appreciative of the fact that in accordance with the regulations, late documents that are adduced after the hearing commences can only be adduced with the agreement of all parties. So in order to attain my agreement, I'd like to see those photographs. That would be the pragmatic way of dealing with it, yes. So if I could see them, then perhaps we could have a 5-minute adjournment and then we could reconvene and I can give you my final answer.
Okay, I mean, it just seemed to me that all parties do wish to see these, and I think it would be appropriate, of course, to allow this. So, obviously, to allow them to be circulated and considered, and make sure that adequate time for them, the various parties, to actually consider this information. I'm going to formally ask for adjournment anyway.
Indeed,
Okay.
Chairman, if I could just interject with one point, which I think your legal advisor is about to throw into you as well, in that you cannot see those photographs until agreement has been attained. So at the moment, I'm afraid that the provisions are that the parties to the hearing, so ourselves, the fire service, environmental health, the police need to see those before you get sight of them. I hope that helps, and I hope that is exactly what the legal advisor was about to tell you.
Yeah, but no one else has asked to see them, so it's only him that's said it.
Chairman, if it's going to help you, I don't think there's going to be any contention, but I just do need to see the photographs as a matter of procedure and policy beforehand.
Sure.
It's fine for him to see them, but I check with environmental health and the police whether they want to see them.
Right. Okay. Do you as environmental health representatives, do you wish to see them? Right. Sorry.
Sorry to interrupt. Do you mind just using your microphone?
Yeah. Can I just remind everybody around the table, this is getting quite difficult in this room for any of us at this end to hear anything being said because of the air conditioning. It's been mentioned at various different meetings over the last 2 or 3 months, and we're doing everything we can as members to try and make sure that this is rectified. But at the moment, it's not been rectified. And all we hear is buzzing, and all I can ask people is please speak close to the microphone. It is, and I was going to remind you, John. Sorry, it's so difficult to actually quite grasp exactly what people were saying. So if you could speak closely to environmental health to the microphone, it'd be appreciated. So sorry, I'm sorry I've interjected, but I'm going to ask you again just to repeat what you said. Sorry.
Yes, please. I would like to have a look at them.
Thank you. And the police?
Yes, we'd like to have a look at them, please.
Okay, so I'm going to, from the chair, formally adjourn proceedings. During the last occasion, we did say 20 minutes, and we found it was a struggle, and we ended up coming back, I think, after about 28 minutes. So I think I'm going to formally. How long?
I think 5 minutes is fine.
Okay, 5 minutes for the photos at this time, but we might have to obviously come back later. Okay, so are they available?
Are they available? Nice to see.
Are they available?
yes, we've got hard copies, and we sent an email to the licensing officer of electronic copies, so that could be provided to the Thames Valley Police.
Yeah, I've got an electronic copy, so I can provide that.
Are we going to reconvene somewhere else? Are we going to
We can just stay here.
you stay here? Okay, we're all going to stay in this room at the present time. Okay, thank you.
not live, is it?
Back on. We're back on, aren't we?
Red beds. Yeah.
We are. Oh, wait a minute. I can't. I'm just waiting to reconvene, Stephanie. I'll get you back in.
Don't let me turn it down.
Oh.
Stop it.
Okay. Right. Well, I'm going to reconvene these proceedings. Firstly, ask the police, can you hear the proceedings, and you've had adequate time to see the documents, correct? Okay. Going around the room, everybody else has seen the documents, okay? Everybody's happy. And if everybody's happy, then I'm going to formally proceed with the formula as laid out.
Chairman, you're going to hate me, but could I just raise one issue? And that is because, and I'm conscious that I haven't formally said yes to these yet, but the fire service have snuck in at the end beyond the photographs a plan. And that plan is annotated, I believe, by the fire service. I think that's what they've done.
Yeah, we annotated that on our inspection.
And my eye was immediately drawn to a door that's shown on that plan, where it says that the door is missing. Now, that door is shown on the application plan, and I've just checked with the fire service. There is no objection to that door being removed as it is. But the problem we have is that it's shown on the application plan. Now, you may be familiar with the case of Crown and TG Bars Limited, I think it's TG Bars Manchester Limited, where amendments were made to an application actually at the hearing. So let me deal with this in two ways. First of all, there's no objection to the photographs going in. Secondly, there is no objection to the plan going in, with one caveat on something I'll say about that again later. But we would seek to modify the application to show that that door, which is adjacent to the kitchen, I'm conscious you haven't seen the plan yet, but hopefully it will make sense when you see it, is removed from the application plan. That's something that can be done fairly easily. As I say, there's no objection to that door being removed, but it's sensible to get it done now so there's no contention later on. I hope that helps.
Okay, thank you for that information. Thank you for that presentation, and it's quite useful to point it out at this particular point. Obviously, what I need now to identify whether the other participants round the table are happy with that. Environmental health, yes.
Yeah, happy with that.
Okay. Licensing.
Yep.
Okay. And members.
Yeah, no, you don't need to.
Yes, Chair, it'd be better if you saw the plan first. I'm conscious that it's an amendment to the application. That's something that has been done.
Okay. Fire service comment?
No, but no issues with that.
Okay. All right. In view of that, I think we are about to commence the formal proceedings.
So,
What?
are the members happy to be in?
Are you, Councillor Stevenson and Councillor Foot, happy?
Yes, Chair.
I did look round a minute ago, but I didn't see any dissension, so that's why.
Sorry, are we saying that as long as the fire service and everyone else has seen the photographs, we don't need to?
Are you happy? You just need to say that you-
I'm happy for them to be included,
Okay.
sorry.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So you now need to see copies.
Sorry.
You now need to see copies of the photos.
Right. Okay. Of course, what we haven't done is, as members, we haven't seen the copies anyway. So we now need to obviously look formally at the copies. So Do I need to adjourn now?
Yeah.
So I'm afraid I have to make a formal adjournment again. And then we can obviously proceed. Okay. Thank you for promptly coming back into the freezer and hopefully now providing the remote participants are actually able to hear the proceedings. Are you able to hear us?
Yes, can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, okay. Right. So we're now going to continue on the proceedings. There was just one thing that I need to point out. There was a very late email received late last night. Member of the public, I think, wasn't it? Member of the public with some comments about this particular application, but we did feel appropriately at the previous to this start the proceedings that the panel felt it was not appropriate to include the particular comments. It would not affect anybody around the table as far as we're aware. And we felt it was only appropriate that we should just mention that around the table now. So,
Chair, I'm grateful. Yes. Could you just confirm whether that email was from somebody who has made a representation already, and indeed whether you've read that email?
it was my understanding it was nothing, it was not from anybody that's been associated with this particular case. It was possibly just from what we understand, personal views of an individual on an application, as what many people do on social media these days, make observations.
Yes, indeed.
No, and sorry, and to confirm your second point, your question, we haven't read it, but it might be appropriate that we perhaps shouldn't read it. But
well, it sounds like you're aware of the contents, but no, I'm grateful.
Let's say we were just given an overview. That's all. Okay, thank you. I would therefore like, hopefully, to proceed at the meat of the proceedings, and probably, as some people might say, is the show on the road. But in this case, it's the whole formal proceedings. So, to go through the process, of course, the first person that will be entitled to speak is Riley Timoney, the licensing officer. And I'm going to ask Riley to proceed with his presentation. Over to you, Riley.
Thank you, Chair. Can everyone hear me? My name is Riley Timoney. I'm the licensing officer with the Public Protection Partnership, and I will now introduce the application. On the 3rd of November 2023, the Licensing Authority received from Reloaded Nightclub Limited a new premises licence application under Section 17 of the Licensing Act 2003. The application related to a premises located at 7 Wharf Street, Newbury, West Berkshire, RG 145AN. This application has been recorded on the licensing database under reference number 22979. The application was validated on the 3rd of November 2023, and the consultation period ran from the 4th of November 2023 until the end date of the 1st of December 2023. A copy of the application, including a location map and plan, is attached as Appendix 1 and 2. The application seeks to obtain the following licensable activity: the supply of alcohol Sunday to Thursday from 10 a.m. until 02:30 a.m. for consumption on the premises, Friday to Saturday from 1000 hours till 0400 hours for consumption on the premises, late night refreshment Sunday to Thursday from 2300 hours to 02:300 hours indoors only, Friday to Saturday from 2300 to 0400 indoors only, live music from Sunday to Thursday 1000 hours through to 02:30 hours indoors only, Friday to Saturday 1000 hours to 0400 hours indoors only, recorded music Sunday to Thursday 1000 hours till 02:30 hours indoors only, Friday to Saturday 1000 hours to 0400 hours indoors only, performance of dance Sunday to Thursday 1000 hours to 02:30 hours indoors only, and Friday to Saturday, 1000 hours to 0400 hours, indoors only. I can confirm that the application was made in accordance with the Act. Responsible authorities, ward members and the Town Council were notified of the application by email on the 3rd of November 2023. The application was advertised in accordance with regulations and with the required blue notices being placed at the premises and checked by an officer from the Public Protection Partnership, and the advert was placed in a local newspaper. 4 representations were received from members of the public, of which 3 were found to be valid. Their overall concerns noted in the representation were related to the potential of public nuisance, particularly noise, increased potential for crime and disorder, and the granting of this licence would undermine the licensing objectives. The Fire Authority have also made an objection to this application. The Chief Officer of Police for Thames Valley made an objection to this application, which has now been withdrawn following additional conditions being agreed with the applicant. Environmental Health also made an objection to this application, which has now been withdrawn following additional conditions being agreed with the applicant. As per the agreement of conditions with Environmental Health, the applicant has agreed to the following amendments. The following licensing activities can only take place on the hours specified below. Live music has been specified as occasional until 11:30 p.m. Recorded music to run from 10 a.m. until midnight, Sunday to Thursday, to run from 10 a.m. till 2 a.m. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Performance of dance, 10 a.m. until midnight, Sunday to Wednesday, and 10 a.m. till 2 a.m. on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Sale of alcohol from 10 a.m. until midnight, Sunday to Wednesday, and from 10 a.m. until 2 a.m. on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. Late night refreshment from 11 p.m. until midnight on Sundays to Thursdays, and from 11 p.m. until 2 a.m. Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. The hours that the premises will be open to the public, Sunday to Wednesday, is 10 a.m. until 12:30, so half past midnight. And Thursday, Friday, and Saturday will be 10 a.m. until 02:30 a.m. Following the discussions with the applicant, Environmental Health withdrew their representation formally, stating that that based upon the applicant's acceptance of the conditions and occasional live music until 11:30 p.m., provided that noise control arrangements are contained within the noise management plan and it does not cause an unreasonable disturbance to neighbouring residents. This application was originally brought before members on Wednesday, the 3rd of January 2024. However, the meeting was adjourned as agreed by all parties. An adjourned hearing date was agreed for today, Wednesday, the 17th of January 2024. As relevant representations were made, members must determine the application. Members must consider all representations, both written and oral, with due regard of the licensing objectives and decide whether the application for a premises license should be granted or rejected. If members are minded to include any additional conditions other than those offered up by the applicant, they will need to provide their reasons for doing so in their decision notice. Licensing authorities should only impose conditions which are necessary and proportionate for the promotion of the licensing objectives. In addition to this, it was stated that any condition attached to the license should be enforceable. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Riley. Members, questions?
Thanks very much, Chair. Could I ask, you didn't mention anything about drinking up time. Is there any, can you just reiterate to the committee what the conditions are regarding drinking up time? Thanks.
Yeah, so the sale of alcohol, I appreciate there was a lot of numbers that were thrown into that, so I'm quite happy to go over the sale of alcohol again. So Sundays to Thursdays will be from 10 a.m. until midnight, with the hours that the premises opening to the public closing at midnight, so half an hour after the sale of alcohol is finished. And for Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, sale of alcohol would be from 10 a.m. until 2 a.m., with the hours open to the public of 10 a.m. till 2:30 a.m. So again, another half an hour.
Okay, no questions from Stephanie. Right, okay. John, question?
I have no questions, thank you. That's very helpful. Essentially, drinking up time is 30 minutes beyond the sale of alcohol.
Okay. Okay. Samuel?
No questions.
Okay. Ward member? No questions. Okay. Do you have a question at all from the police?
Yeah, I just wanted clarification on the live music. Documentation I've received suggests there is no live music. Has that been agreed with Environmental Health to the contrary since their letter?
Yes, so Environmental Health have agreed with the applicant on the definition is given was occasional live music. So yeah. And
That all-
sorry, just to add to that, sorry, was until 11:30.
Yeah, is that all week long or just Thursday to Sunday or Thursday to Saturday?
It wasn't specified on any given days, as far as I'm aware. It was just going to be, the only definition given was occasional. Thank you.
Okay. No other questions?
Okay, occasional seems a bit vague to me.
So
Yeah. I mean, sorry, your last comment was you said it was rather vague. Did you have any supplementary questions at all?
No, I just want to bring that to your attention, really. I think that may be one of the things you may want to consider pinning, shall we say, pinning down.
Okay, thank you very much for that comment. No other questions. I'm gonna now move on to the applicant, and it's over to you, John. Your 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I could perhaps deal with that last point. The police will, of course, be aware that the Live Music Act affects the performance of music up until 2300 on licensed premises in any case. And so the matter of occasional is perhaps something of a red herring in this. Clearly, it's not within the main scheme of the premises to provide live music. It's an occasional thing, and it's rather hard to tie that down to a specific number of occasions. Let me deal with this application from the beginning to the end, though. So, councillors, you'll be aware, I hope, that this premises has had a licence in the past. Indeed, I was just looking up, thinking it must be about 10 years ago that I was here at the council offices asking for a variation of the licence for that premises. Indeed, I've just looked it up on the 28th of January 2013, a licence amendment was granted by the licensing committee or to this particular premises. That, of course, was done through a hearing because there had been some objections from the town council, and there was a concern even then, or should I say then, about the means of escape, and that was addressed through the exit doors that are now present at the premises. So at that point in time, in 2013, the licensing authority set something, if I may say this, of a precedent that this is a premises that could hold a license and should be a licensed premises. Since then, things have happened, and essentially my instructions are that the license that was granted has regrettably lapsed. Now, it could have been that the applicant here today could have sought to reinstate that license, but unfortunately, for whatever reason, that wasn't possible. So we are here purely with a license application because of that lapse of the previous license. You've heard the hours that have been applied for, and you've heard that there's been a discussion with the police and with environmental health, and that has resulted in the applicant listening to what is being said, looking at what was on the license before, and agreeing to reduced hours. I'm conscious that the ward council has asked for reduced hours and has essentially got that through to 2 a.m. On weekends and midnight on weekdays. So I hope that that is seen as a positive way forward. Clearly, the presence of the licence at this premises and no reviews of that licence show that the premises can operate satisfactorily. And in terms of the objections that have been received suggesting that there might be crime and disorder, that there might be public nuisance, those are dealt with more than adequately, we say, through some fairly extensive conditions and control measures. Of course, any premises can cause problems, but that's why there are conditions on the licence. And what we say is that those conditions that have been agreed, those conditions that were volunteered in the application, sorry, I've just had a gust of really cold air, are sufficient to address those concerns. The matter of those that are saying that they are likely to be affected is dealt with through those conditions. It's dealt with through the management of the queuing system. It's dealt with through the capacity of the premises. It's dealt with through the noise limiters that are installed or being installed and set at those premises. The main issue that you have before you today, other than those, is therefore the matter of the representation that's been received from the fire service. And the fire service have quite rightly been to inspect the premises and unusually, in my experience, made a representation. I say unusually, I've lost count of the number of applications and probably can count on one hand the number of times that a fire service has made a representation. Now, those representations relate, as you will have seen, to the means of escape and to the treatment of what could be best described as decoration at the premises. The decoration, if I can deal with that first, are decorations that have been sourced from a supplier and are used in other licensed premises on my instructions. And I've been showing a photograph of other licensed premises where they're present. And they have been treated. Now, you have a certificate before you that shows the, if I can call it the substrate or the base upon which the flowers, and now that you've seen the photographs, you will understand what I mean, that the flowers have been placed. I'm sorry, you have seen those photographs, have you?
Sorry, I was just asked how much time we have remaining.
Oh, right, okay. I won't be much longer. And what I can say is that my client has already tested those flowers in what can be best described as a rule of thumb test not at the premises, but away from the premises, by applying a light, a flame to them. And those flowers that have been treated did not sustain combustion. Now, you have certificates to show that the substrate upon which the flowers are based is sufficiently fireproof. But you may, having heard from the fire service, still have some concerns that there is no demonstration as far as the petals, the flowers that you see. Now, that's not a difficulty because that can easily be treated by means of a subsequent application of material. In the last couple of weeks since the hearing was adjourned, approaches have been made to a company who have said, yes, we can make sure that they are class 0 fire retardant or won't sustain surface spread of flame. They will comply with the requirements. But clearly there is a very extensive cost to do that. We are probably looking at somewhere, to give you an idea, of £3,000 to £4,000. Now, clearly, any applicant won't want to do that if there is any prospect that no licence will be granted. Now, the way to deal with that is with many things that need to be done in the future. And that is to add a condition on the licence, and we've suggested this to the fire service, that the premises shall not be used for licensable activity until a certificate has been provided, which shows that the decorations are class 0, I will give you the full specification, fire retardant. That would seem to me to address that particular issue. You can't use the licensed premises until you can demonstrate that the materials are fireproofed, in simple terms. That is used many times and indeed has been used in different forms for different scenarios by this licensing authority. And the classic, for example, is a noise condition where, for instance, a noise limiter is required to be installed and set in accordance with agreement with the Environmental Health Officer. That's a fairly common condition that's seen. So that's a prospective. So in terms of dealing with that part of the representation, that can entirely be done by condition. The second part of the representation is to do with the number of fire exits and the capacity of the premises. Now, you have a revised plan in the revised fire risk assessment, which shows a different approach, and it shows the calculations for the capacity of the premises. And quite clearly, the fire authority is right that the approach needs to be spelt out in the assessment. That is something that I have personally spoken to the assessor about, and that's why you now have the calculation set out. Clearly, the capacity is not.
You have 1 minute remaining.
I'm grateful that the capacity is not the hundreds, and it comes down to the question of the front door. If the front door can be propped open or can be indeed removed, then the fire capacity is greater for the premises than its current arrangement of inwards opening. Now, that door, I understand, is capable of being lifted off very easily and removed. And what we propose, again, is a condition about capacity. And I'll set this out to you in my summing up, if you don't mind, because I realise that I'm running short of time. That the capacity is set at a particular level now, and if the door is removed, then a different capacity applies. All of these matters, we say, are capable of being dealt with by condition. Both the fire representation and the representations from the public and the comments from the ward councillor. And in that respect, what we say is that the precedent of this premises holding a licence should continue, the circumstances should be regarded, and therefore a licence should be issued. So I'm conscious that is my time, I think.
That is your time.
Right on cue.
Thank you very much. Well prepared and, as you say, right on cue. Members, Stephanie.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to ask the applicant if, with these revised figures of the discounted fire exits, that the total maximum occupancy is 220 persons. You may revisit that in your summary, but I take it that's still then a viable business opportunity if you were hoping to get up to 500.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Yes.
Thank you.
Obviously less so, but one can only work with the cloth one has.
Okay, Nigel.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, could I ask, I mean, very helpfully, you said that the premises had a licence in 2013. Could you share with us the hours that was granted, please?
Yes, let me read from, I have the minute. The current premises licence allowed for the supply of alcohol from Monday to Sunday, 10 till 2:30, with non-standard timings, 10 o'clock on 31st of December to 4 o'clock on the 2nd of January. The standard premises of opening were then amended to 4 a.m. With supply of alcohol finishing at 3:30 and closing at 4 o'clock.
Thank you very much.
And Chairman, if it helps further, I would rather anticipate that's exactly why the application was made as it was, to replicate what was on the licence.
Thank you. Just one question from the chair. You made quite a interesting comments regarding the flowers and considering what could be a sensible material to be used to obviously conform to any conditions which are placed. But is that part and parcel of the interior of the room, or is this this is a special attraction for the audience? I'm a little bit unclear on why these flowers are part of the room.
Oh, I see. Right. Well, I would rather anticipate, and I will stand or sit to be contradicted, that this is part of the ambience and the approach that is designed into the premises. You will appreciate, of course, Chairman, that in designing a premises, the actual design is really important in terms of the clientele that you attract and the clientele more specifically that you don't attract. The intention here, I gather, is to attract those clientele who would be suitable for the area, if I can put it as politely as that, and attracted by what is a high class appearance, which you'll have seen from the photographs. That's the purpose of the decoration. It's no more than that. It's part of the marketing and attraction and management of those premises.
Okay, thank you. Right, I'm now going to obviously go around the room and ask for questions from the various participants. Licensing?
No, nothing from me.
Environmental health?
I just wanted to clarify. It was my understanding from what you just said, John, that to have a higher capacity in the premises, the front door would need to be removed. Is that correct?
Well, either removed or propped open and maintained propped open. I'm conscious that your next comment is going to be about sound attenuation, but there, of course, are sliding doors internal to the premises, which would be kept closed apart from the immediate exit or entry to maintain that sound protection. There is the benefit, of course, that the entry into the premises is at a right angle. It's not a direct approach through. We are entirely conscious about the potential for sound breakout. And clearly, as I've just said, one has to go with whatever cloth one has got. And if one is going to remove the external door, then clearly the sound limiters will need to be set at a lower level. Greater monitoring will need to be carried out to make sure there is no sound breakout. But the assessment that we have made at the moment would seem to indicate that that can be managed even if that front door is removed.
Just on that point then, Chair, I was just, one of the conditions that the applicant has agreed to is for a lobby door to be provided, which is a set of two doors, the idea being one's always closed. So if that was to be the case, then that condition would have to be considered.
I have to say I couldn't hear it, but I'm looking at Ben to make sure that he actually is minuting it correctly. That's all.
Chairman, if I can just interject and perhaps speak even closer to my microphone, the officer is absolutely quite right that the condition that is agreed and proposed in relation to the lobby doors would need to be modified somewhat so that it could permit that door to be, the external door to be removed in the interests of fire safety. Now, the intention is, of course, not that the door would be removed on all instances, because the premises simply just won't operate to full capacity on all occasions. So on those occasions, the door will be present and closed. It's just a case of modifying that condition to make sure that it refers to removal where that's required for capacity.
Okay, thank you. As you got a follow-up to?
I would have some concerns about the front door being removed in terms of breakout of noise. But if they are successfully able to demonstrate that it was going to have a suitable noise level without the front door, then we would accept that. But at the moment, the applicant has agreed to a condition to have a lobby door.
Thank you.
Yes, Chairman, I understand that point entirely. The only thing that I would say in response to it is that lobby doors have been installed, and clearly the premises were operating from the outset without lobby doors. clearly, one will have to control the sound within the premises and make sure that there is no breakout, and that's dealt with through other conditions.
Thank you. Right, Samuel, fire.
As it stands, Royal Berkshire Fire and Rescue Service. Oh, sorry, you're asking if I had any questions?
Yes.
No questions, no questions.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, made it clear, sorry, but you were the next on the list to ask questions if you so wish. Okay, thank you. Right, okay, ward member.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I welcome the reduction in opening hours. I just wanted to clarify, Thursday nights, it's still planned to be open till 2:30 a.m. Is that right?
Yes, indeed. I believe that's what's been agreed.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? No. Okay, police.
No question from me.
Sorry, you said no. Okay. Okay, right, now we've now moved on to the fire authority for your formal presentation. So I'm going to obviously hand over to you for your 10-minute session.
Thank you, Chairman. As it stands, Royal Berkshire Fire and Rescue Service are still objecting and making representation for the licence. We have received the amended risk assessment and calculations which were sent to us last night. The attachment to that is an SGA certification for the external wall, but not external wall, the flower decorations on the ceiling and wall linings. We have already considered this certification and our fire engineer viewed this certification and did not believe it to be sufficient to confirm that they achieved the required linings. In terms of the occupancy capacity for the premises, we are dealing with what we've got present and not the suggested conditions. When we have measured that door on various occasions, the door measured 960 millimetres, which is the clear, unobstructed width of the door. The fire risk assessment, which we received yesterday with the amended calculations, is stating 1060 millimetres, which is 100 millimetres more than our measurements. Therefore, the suggested capacity numbers within the premises of 220 within the fire risk assessment for the premises is still in excess of what we believe the allowable amount would be within the premises based on exit widths. The exit widths currently with an inward opening door would suffice 60, give it means of escape for 60 persons. If it were to be pinned open currently, then that would allow for 100 persons. I'm aware of the applicant solicitor's suggestions and conditions, but for us to accept those, we would need to have those conditions written down and have formal consultation on those and be privy to those. And of course, we don't set the conditions on the licence, that would be yourselves. Therefore, our concerns about public safety are still present. We believe, because we haven't got confirmation, that it could be potential for a fire involving the surface flame, involving the flower and ceiling decorations at the premises. And until such point as we've received confirmation that it achieves the required classifications for surface spread of flame, we would not move on that representation. As the applicant solicitor has suggested, it can be treated in order for that to happen. But what we would like, and we would like to work with the applicant, is to be privy to the exact nature of the treatment, including the substrate, and also have time for us to consider that treatment with our fire engineer so that we do not cost the applicant any unnecessary monies in performing that task.
You're well in underneath your 10 minutes, if that's the case.
Yes, nothing else for me to say.
Okay, right. You've obviously made quite some interesting points. And I'm just really wanted to get you to just elaborate a bit on your capacity figures that you've just quoted, because obviously one set of figures we were quite conversant with. The modified one we were conversant with, but you've also mentioned a third one. And you're saying reduction from the 220, I think you were saying. Obviously we will need to look very closely at these figures. And you've also made the comments in relationship to what you felt was appropriate on the fire retardant material for the flowers. Are you going as far as saying that you would like to see that there wasn't any flowers of any particular type of material in that room? Because obviously that's something else that we would be very interested to hear your particular views on. So I think that's a question from the chair to start with, and then obviously I'll bring my colleagues in a minute.
So in relation to kind of the first question you said about the separate amount of figures in terms of the capacity for the premises, the fire risk assessment amendment which we received through yesterday indicates that the inward opening door at the bottom has a measurement of 1060 millimetres. We have carried out our own measurements of that door, and that door, even if it's inward opening and held back, we have measured as a clear unobstructed opening of 960 millimetres. Therefore, if it was to be pinned back in accordance with the government guidance, that would allow for 100 persons in terms of exit capacity, if it was to be pinned back. If it wasn't to be pinned back, it's an inward opening door which would only allow 60 persons for the premises when discounting the other exits, which is actually shown within the fire risk assessment document that's been provided with the fire in front of the two exits themselves. In relation to your question regarding the decorative ceiling and wall linings, we wouldn't be saying that they would like them to be removed, so long as they satisfy the requirements set out within our guidance document of Class 0 surface spread of flame. It would obviously be easy if they weren't there, but if they can prove that it achieves the relevant classifications, then there's no problem with that.
Okay, thank you very much. Stephanie.
Yes, please, Mr. Chair. Can I just ask you about these flowers? And you're talking about something classification of 0, and that's fire retardancy. What about fumes?
So in terms of the classifications, there's 2 classifications. They, as per my initial letter with the representation, they need to have achieved Class O or BS-3-D2. Okay. Now, when we talk about fire retardancy, there's differences between fire resistance, fire retardancy, and surface spread of flame. Now, those numbers within that BS-3/D2 indicate different reactions to fire testing. Now, this is where I take my advice from the fire engineer within the service, because that is what they look at in terms of fire testing. And as I've already explained, they've looked at the certification which was provided as an attachment previously and decided that that's not suitable. Does that answer your question?
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? No? Stephanie, any further? Okay. Nigel?
Yes, thanks, Chair. Thank you very much. My colleagues already asked a few of the questions that I had. You mentioned that you want to work with the applicant, and we're conscious of the fact that you received the certification yesterday. How long would you need to, in time scale, to be able to work constructively with the applicant so that you hopefully arrived at a satisfactory conclusion for all parties?
Yeah, I received that certification yesterday and the risk assessment yesterday evening. That certification has already been assessed by our fire engineer because it was provided at a previous date in November. So in terms of that certification that's come through, that's already been assessed. In terms of working with the applicant, that would depend on what conditions that they wanted to put in, and we would have to consider those conditions and the variations and deviations from that. The solicitor acting on behalf of the applicant sent through a potential some conditions to us last Friday, and we made it known to the solicitor that we cannot consult all the parties on those conditions within that time frame. That email has not been provided to you. That was discussions out of the hearing process.
Yeah.
We said we couldn't discuss on that time frame because we needed to consult with our fire engineer and also our own legal departments.
Thank you very much. Chair, if I may, I have one further question. Could you just clarify to the committee about the fire exits?
Yeah.
On the document we've received dated 28th of December 2023 fire risk assessment, on the back of that, there is a diagram, a plan of the premises. Could you just, before the committee, just clarify the escape exits, please, the fire exits? Thanks.
If you just bear with me 1 second, I've got to find it within all of my files of information. Oh, thank you ever so much. So to explain this newly created occupancy calculations on the back of the fire risk assessment, as you can see, there is a double door exit and a single door exit to the right-hand side of the premises. There's also an inward opening main entrance to the left-hand side at the bottom of the plan. When we are looking at exit capacity from a premises in the fire service and as per the government guidance, we always discount our largest exits. We assume quite pessimistically that the fire is going to take out our largest exit. Therefore, we also look at the exits that are next to it. So as you can see down in the right-hand corner, it is our opinion and the fire risker's opinion, because this is not a document that's been provided by us, that a fire will take out both of those exits. Therefore, we would run off the remaining exits within the premises to calculate the exit capacity. That exit capacity is based on a number of factors. Firstly, is the door outward opening? Secondly, the width of that exit. If the door set is inward opening, the government guidance would indicate that 60 persons is acceptable through that exit. However, when working with licensable premises, we have in the past accepted the door being at an opened or pinned open, therefore negating the need for people to have to open the door, hence why that 60 persons were initially calculated when we look back historically through government processes. If the door was to be held back, then it would go off the width of the door. The width of the door that is stated, and you see the stated figure of 1,060 millimetres, we are saying that that figure, in our opinion, is not correct because we've gone and measured the door itself, and that door set is only 960 millimetres. When we have measured the door, we have taken into account the full unobstructed exit width of that. Now, within the government guidance document, a door greater than 750 millimetres in width would allow 100 persons. What you're allowed to do when you have a door that's over 1,050 millimetres is a thing called interpolation, an interpolation means that for every 75 millimetres above the 750 millimetres, you're allowed an extra 15 persons. However, interpolation is not permitted in any guidance document for door sets that don't have the width of greater than 1050 millimetres. So at the moment, the figure that's stated in a maximum occupancy of 220, in our opinion, is incorrect. However, should they make changes, as the applicant solicitor mentioned, in terms of conditions, then that might be something that we look at later on. If they were to remove the door in its entirety, that may affect the measurement of the door. But our figures are different to the figures that have been produced by the fire risk assessor for the premises.
Thank you very. That was a very clear submission. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I now move on to the applicant. John, questions?
Sorry, I forgot my microphone. I think it's agreed, isn't it, that you had the email with proposed conditions on 12th of January? Yeah.
Yes, that's agreed.
In assessing during the inspection the materials that are on the walls and ceiling, did you carry out any flame tests yourself at all?
No, I did not.
Thank you. And finally, if these premises were to open without a license, let's say tomorrow, they were doing something like selling, I don't know, soft drinks and peanuts, would you have any powers to deal with the issues of capacity and the decoration?
Yes, we have powers under the regulatory reform fire safety order. Sorry, I couldn't speak then properly for a second. It's probably because I'm shivering at the same time. Regulatory reform fire safety order 2005. We have powers under that order.
And you can serve improvement notices and enforcement notices to deal with issues such as the risk assessment, the capacity of the premises, the means of escape under Article 8, those sorts of things, yeah?
Yes, we can issue improvement notices, deficiencies, enforcement notices, and restrict and or prohibit the use of a building.
Yeah, I'm grateful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Riley, any questions?
No, nothing from me. Thank you.
Hey.
No questions, thank you.
Well, thanks for a presentation. Now I'm going to move on to the ward member. Sorry, no, sorry, I've got two more people yet. The ward member and the police. Sorry, I know sorry.
No questions from me, Chair.
Okay.
Same here, no questions from me, Chair.
Right. Well, thank you very much. Conscious, I've been looking at the time because it was pointed out to me that the possibility the ward members' session should be moved forward because I know the ward members got another meeting at 12 o'clock. But I think we're going to be lucky, Martin, because if providing you keep to your 10 minutes questions, you should be all right. So I'm going to hand over to you now.
Thank you very much. Everybody should have seen my submission, which I put in after the last meeting and following the request from the applicant that I provided in advance. I just wanted to summarise my main concern based on the feedback from residents was about the noise or potential noise. I just had a couple of questions, really. The first one was that both the residents who put in objections mentioned a sound check that happened in November, and that was very intrusive. And I wanted to know, please, what level the sound was at there compared to what the planned limit of the sound is. Do you know the answer to that?
Well, Chairman, I'm conscious that the point for questions
Well-
has gone. However, can I just deal with that? Because I have an answer which I want to give anyway. And that is simply that the sound check that's referred to was not one that was done at these premises. That check that was done was nothing to do with these premises at all.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Yeah, so my main concern is the sound, and we've got the applicant has agreed some new conditions and opening hours not as long as originally put in, which, as I said, I welcome. I'm just concerned what happens if all of those conditions are met and it's still I don't know what the right word is, but unbearable by for the residents, the neighbouring residents. Is there any possible redress for them?
Chairman, would you like me to answer that?
I was going to say, I think at the moment we're sort of moving into questions when technically it's your presentation, and I think
I apologise. I haven't been to one
question
of these
that you
before.
just raised. I think it's something that I think we would take it out of line anyway as a ward member that would obviously contact environmental health for noise levels.
Okay,
anyway.
thank you.
Yeah, I wonder whether I could just interject and perhaps assist with that, because I'm conscious the ward member may not be fully familiar with the whole ambit of
I'm not.
licensing legislation, which is why I offer it, and that there is a process of review of licenses that can be applied for if premises cause problems. That's been built into the Act, so there is an ability for anybody to approach the local authority at no cost. There's no application fee for a review of that license, and then at that review hearing, the local authority can listen to the evidence and impose new restrictions, or indeed ultimately have the power to take the license away. I hope that helps. I didn't want to step out of line, but I'm conscious it might help the councillor with a bit of knowledge about licensing law.
It does. Thank you.
Yeah, and thanks for that, John. I know it's technically not quite the procedure, but it was helpful for the ward member. Anyway.
Chairman, I'm conscious to bring it into the realm of procedure. Of course, the Secretary of State's guidance is that these hearings should take the form of a discussion led by the chairman. I'm sure that's exactly what you were just doing.
Thank you very much, John. I'm now going to bring in ward members. Stephanie, have you? Sorry, of the members of the committee to ask the ward member any questions. Nigel?
Just one quick one, if I may. Could I ask, Martin, have you had many submissions from members of the public in the ward about this?
No, I've just been acting on the submissions that were made when the licensing application went in, so the objections that came in.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I know you responded to a couple points, John, but was there any specific questions you had?
No, I have nothing. Thank you.
Okay. Samuel, from the Fire Authority?
No question.
Okay. Riley from licensing?
No, nothing from me. Thank you.
And Kate from the Environmental Health?
No questions.
Okay. Well, thanks very much, ward member. And oh, sorry, the police. Sorry, apologies.
No questions from me. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm conscious that I keep looking at that clock and
I need to go now, I'm afraid. But thank you very much.
You can be relieved. Okay. Thank you very much for your attendance. I'll just wait for him to go.
Is it worth?
We're obviously coming to the point of where I will be asking the applicant to sum up, but is there any other specific points that you feel that should be addressed from the Fire Authority? Anything that is important that you think we should take on board?
No, I've said everything I need to say.
Okay. Environmental health? No. Licensing?
No, nothing further
Okay.
from me, Chair.
Police, still there?
Yep, no, nothing further from me.
I'm conscious I haven't been on each section asking if you have been listening, but I do quickly look to see if there's if you are going to nod or shake your head or anything. So, okay, thank you. Right, I'm now coming obviously to the end of the proceedings, but before we do, obviously I know I've got to ask you as the applicant, John, to give you a chance to obviously address any comments that you feel that the subcommittee should be considering today, bearing in mind that I'm going to specifically ask, as I'm sure you will do, make sure that you're not introducing any new evidence that you haven't already introduced earlier in your submission. So you've now got the opportunity for your 10 minutes to sum up.
Thank you, Chair. I'm assuming that I'm the last to speak on this particular matter in accordance with your procedure, so I'll proceed on that basis. Members of the committee, you have before you an application which in part replicates a licence that previously existed quite satisfactorily at these premises, and indeed existed, as you've heard from me, for well over 10 years. 10 years ago was when the variation was made to the hours to 4 a.m. This application is much more diminutive in its approach, and the applicant has listened to environmental health, to the fire service, and to local residents in terms of what their desires are for the premises, and has agreed to reduce those hours, as you've heard. In terms of the noise and disturbance issues, those have been discussed with environmental health, and in conjunction with the conditions that were offered on the application, there is a very strong schedule in place. And we urge you to take the advice of your environmental health officer, the professional in these matters, that those conditions are sufficient for this particular premises, backed up by that 10 years plus of existing licence without tenure review. That brings us then to the nub of the matter to do with fire precautions. And of course, foremost in your minds will be the provisions of the Secretary of State's Section 182 guidance. And I'm sure that you're ahead of me in 1.16, which talks about other regimes, that licence conditions should not duplicate other statutory requirements or other duties or responsibilities placed on the employer by other legislation. Now, one of my questions to the fire service, you heard me ask, was did the fire service have any powers if this premises was open for selling things that were not licensable? So soft drinks and peanuts was the example, rather frivolous example that I gave. And you heard back that actually, yes, there are powers under the regulatory reform fire safety order. And those powers include matters to do with capacity. They include matters to do with fire precautions, means of escape, all those things that have been raised in representation today. Now, I mentioned also that it's very irregular for me to see representations from a fire service. And it's for that reason, because there are other powers that should be brought to bear to deal with this issue. This is not about licensing being at the forefront of enforcing all legislation. The Secretary of State is quite clear in the guidance, you must not duplicate other statutory provisions. Now, whilst we say that, we are conscious that the licensing authority will expect us to listen to what the fire service has said. And of course, that is exactly what we've done. And you've heard that we proposed 2 conditions to the fire service last week. I've sent the wording of those 2 conditions and a further one which was raised because, thank you to Environmental Health, about the door. And the first condition that we suggest is added to the licence is this, that the premises shall not be used for a licensable activity until such times as a certificate has been produced
that confirms that the wall and ceiling decoration meets the flammability standard of BS EN 13501-1 Class B S3D2. Now, you will have heard the fire officer refer to that particular standard. And what we're saying is, please grant us a license, and we won't use that license. In fact, we're prohibited from using that license until we've produced the certificate. That neatly deals with the issue about having to spend a lot of money in the possibility that we get a license. Doing it this way means we get a license and then we can spend the money, and we can't use that license until that work has been carried out. That seemed to find favour with the fire service when that point was raised. Indeed, I think the words were that, yes, this system, this decoration can be treated. Now, in relation to capacities, I rely on what I've said about other regimes. And I rely on the fire risk assessment, which has likewise been produced by an expert in fire safety. So you've got a disparity between the two. If you as a licensing authority were minded to put a condition in relation to capacity, I can offer this to you. But I strongly again suggest that this is something that's dealt with through other legislation. The condition that I suggest is that providing that the single front door is kept open and there's a management procedure in place to maintain this arrangement, the capacity of the premises shall be 100 persons. If the exit arrangements are amended to include an additional fire exit or the single front door to the front of the premises, changed to be capable of upwards opening or removed, the capacity shall be 220 persons until such times as a suitable and sufficient risk assessment, those are the words of the Regulatory Reform Fire Safety Order, you'll realise, be completed by a competent consultant which indicates an alternative number. So businesses that hold a licence are required, as you know, to carry out a fire risk assessment, a suitable and sufficient one, appointing competent persons where necessary, and that is what we suggest in relation to that. Now, as far as the door is concerned and noise concerns, what we suggest is that the condition about the lobby doors, given that there are internal doors already, is that that lobby door can be removed in instances where it's required for fire safety reasons, but is replaced thereafter. To assist you, I'm conscious I've read a lot. As I say, I've sent those conditions through to your licensing team so that they can pass those on to you to save having to write it all down verbatim. I hope that's helpful. You've probably written it all down now, but there we go. So, Chair, in those circumstances, what we say is this is an application which is quite clearly capable of being granted and should be granted. The issues that have been raised, both to do with acoustics and fire, can be dealt with quite satisfactorily by condition as they have in the past. And I close commending, not condemning, commending the application to you and asking that you grant it as essentially has been agreed.
Thank you very much for those very concise summing up, John, well within your 10 minutes. Thank you very much. Well, thank you all for your presentations today. Members will now obviously retire and consider the oral presentations as well as the written ones been submitted laid out in the agenda, and a written decision notice will be issued to the interested parties, setting out the verdict as soon as possible, but in any event within 5 working days. So thank you very much for your attendance at this frosty meeting today. Hopefully we as members, as well as you as members of other organisations, won't have to endure these undesirable conditions to proceed on very important matters, which one has to consider in a way which you feel comfortable in considering it, and not having to shiver or shake your hands, which I felt I've been doing for the last hour or so. So thanks again. Cheers.
Chairman, I'm grateful. Could I just check, because I've been to too many hearings, you have no intention of reconvening the hearing today, the decision we sent in writing?
As far as I'm aware, I don't intend to reconvene.
That's very helpful. I did have a very memorable hearing once where the indication was that it was going to be done in writing, and actually the chairman decided within an hour that they were going to reconvene the meeting that day, and I'd already gone. But so I don't want to avoid. I want to have that situation again. But I'm grateful. We'll depart and go and find something warm.
Thank you.